Hey, what's going on? You are listening to the Road Trip Podcast. No, I'm just kidding. The Road Trip Podcast. I'm here with my man, none other than Tom Ness. What's up, Tom?
What's up, man? For a second, I thought I was on the wrong podcast.
Wrong. Yeah, that's my other one, the Road Trip Podcast.
Yeah, we're just talking about going on road trips.
Get it mixed up, yeah. So today, actually, I guess right as of recording this, we are in February, and the summer is coming up. It's still far away, but it's at that point where it's coming.
You need to start thinking about it. You need a game plan.
Cognizant of it, exactly. And some people are going to be going on trips and stuff, and all that kind of stuff. So, what better time than to talk about aggressive dieting for faster fat loss? Because people that have been long listeners of the show know that I recommend like a moderate approach. Like, let's forget about trying to get to the goal as fast as possible. Let's learn how to enjoy it. But actually, in some cases, I do recommend aggressive dieting, and that's what we'll be talking about today. So, yeah.
Awesome.
So basically, to kick it off is I just kind of want to start and flesh out this whole idea of what is aggressive dieting, because it's completely different than crash dieting, which I wholeheartedly do not recommend. And Tom, you've had experiences with crash dieting. I have.
Yeah, well, it's not fun. I mean, like it screws everything up, and there's really no place for it. Not when you know the mechanics of fat loss, and really the difference. What it comes down to is the difference between an aggressive diet and an extreme diet. As an example, following a previous workout before, it was I was working out twice a day, and I was drinking primarily a liquid-based diet, which is like a protein shake in the morning, a protein shake after I worked out, a protein shake like afternoon, so it was like 100. It was about like 100 grams of protein up until that point, and then dinner was basically a salad with chicken, and then like a protein shake before I went to bed with casein, and that was it. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. By like 3 o'clock, I was ready to like shoot my foot off and then eat it. I was that hungry. So. But yeah, so that's why I think it's really important, and a lot of people think that and obviously it comes down to like what's pushed by the media too, but there's a school of people that think that to lose fat, you actually need to you basically need to starve yourself, and it's just not true. So that's what I want to flesh out on this call today.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, just to share my own experiences, yeah, I did some crash dieting in 2011, and it was brutal. I mean, all day you're just thinking about food, you're just starving. At night, you're trying to sleep, and you're so hungry. Your stomach is so empty, and like, oh my God, it is brutal. It is not that fun. Every day, like you're counting down the days like you're a prison inmate, until it's over, and it's pretty bad. And then if if you have a girlfriend, and or you're single and you're going on a date and stuff. I mean, and if things escalate, you're just not on the same level. You just have zero interest in that kind of thing, which is a concern of a lot of people. If you diet too hard, you will lose your sex drive. Girls can even lose their period if they don't eat enough. If they go too low. So I mean, there's definitely negative effects. I know Tom is laughing. This is important stuff.
No, because I just like imagine that conversation. What's up, baby? What do you want to do? Well, actually, I kind of just want to eat right now.
Yeah, I know. It's like all of a sudden you become a non-sexual entity. Guys and girls, I mean, it happens to all of us. If you go too extreme, you lose any interest in that kind of stuff, which is funny because if you think about it, most guys, a lot of people, women, yeah, we want to look good for ourselves, but we also want to look really, really sexy. We want to look sexy. We want to be fit, strong, healthy, but part of us wants to look sexy. And that's an important thing so I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose if all of a sudden you have no desires. It's like, great, well, I look skinny, but I'm miserable, and I have no interest in that kind of thing. So the whole idea with crash dieting is that crash dieting is basically the goal is to lose weight as fast as possible. Let's see if I can eat so little I lose 20 pounds a month. Like the whole frame, the model, the frame is, I want to get this fat loss done as fast as possible, and I'm willing to endure whatever it takes to do so. And this mentality is the kind of thing that, sure, you might do it for a month, you might be miserable the whole time, you might make it, and then you'll drop some weight, but then you're going to, when you try and go back, you're going to, back to normal eating, you're going to just gain a lot of it back.
Yeah.
Haven't found that middle ground. So crash dieting can be very, very problematic. It's really not fun, so I definitely don't recommend it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's like any kind of dieting, you need to find something that's sustainable. Because it's like it's even with an aggressive dieting protocol, which is something we're going to lay out in this call. I mean, it's still like it's not like it's instant results or anything. Like you will see results week after week, but it's not going to be. It's not like you're going to go from fat to shredded in 2 weeks or anything. So, you have to like first understand that it is going to take some time. And you have to find a program that's sustainable for that period of time so you're not completely miserable. And also so that once, and this is actually another problem I see with a lot of programs, it's like so severe that as soon as you stop doing the program, then you revert back to old eating habits because it's just not sustainable, and then you bounce back, and that induces the whole yo-yo dieting syndrome. So
that was very well articulated, but bam, from
thank
Tom,
you.
that's 100% right. Yeah, perfect. So
Well, that's why I said it.
yeah, so the realization that I made was that if dieting wasn't enjoyable, if leaning down each week was like just made life worse, then I'm not down. So I was all about uncovering how to make this as enjoyable as possible, and that's been my focus. And so you can actually do an aggressive diet, and there's I've sort of outlined the differences between a crash diet. So with a crash diet, you're trying to lose weight as fast as possible. Most people on a crash diet will eat, maybe as low as 500 calories, but usually between 800 and 1,200 calories a day.
Mm-hmm.
And like Tom mentioned, if you're doing like 2-3 protein shakes and a big chicken salad, that's going to be about 1,200 calories per day max. So the calories are very, very low. Now with a aggressive diet, you're going to be going a little higher. So you're still going to be eating at a bigger deficit, but it's not going to be as extreme. So Tom, like you might eat like 1,800 calories on a aggressive diet. Like right now, you're doing a moderate diet around 2,200. So if you're going to do an aggressive diet, you might go down to like 1,800. And so that will help you lose like an extra, just over an extra half a pound of fat per week. So I mean, it adds up, and plus you'll lose a bit more water weight on that kind of protocol. But so I mean, you're going for faster fat loss. Like maybe you're going to try and push for 1.5 to 2 pounds of fat loss per week. But I mean, you're still going to be able to maintain strength if you lay it out properly and you have a good like setup. You're still going to be able to feel like reasonably satisfied, and it'll be something that you can sustain. Whereas if you take that 1,800 calorie figure and then you try and go down to say, let's say you try and go down to 1,200, that is going to be so much more miserable. So like let's say your aggressive cut around 1,800 calories, then you just want to go down to let's say 1,300. You're only going to lose an extra pound per week, but you're going to be 10 times more miserable. So really, it's not worth it. Plus, that extra pound a week is probably going to be a good ratio of muscle, because as you have less fat to lose, your body can only oxidize a certain amount of fat per week. So if you're creating a massive caloric deficit, you're not going to lose it all from fat. So that's very problematic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that's a good point too. So like you could push the bounds a little bit more if you want to lose fat at a little bit faster of a rate, but in the long run it isn't worth it, because you have to imagine like if you push the bounds a little bit further, it's not necessarily all fat that you're going to be losing. And so you have to find the sweet spot where there comes a point of diminishing returns. Right.
And so the problem is if you push it too far, so in Tom's example, he might create like instead of creating like a 500 calorie deficit, you might go up to a 700, 800, 900 calorie deficit max. But crash dieting tries to create like a 1,200 to 1,500 calorie deficit. Anyways, so the problem is exactly as Tom said, like as you go too extreme, as you try and push for massive fat loss, you increase the chance that you break your diet and then you binge eat. That's why many people that eat 1,200 calories per day, they maintain their weight. They do it for 3, 4, 5 days, and then they go insane on food and they feel guilty. And this happens to so many of us. That's one issue. Second of all is like you lose some muscle and strength. So a lot of that weight loss isn't exactly fat loss. Third of which is that you can't sustain it. So maybe you do it for a month, 2 months, you lose a staggering amount of weight, but then all of a sudden you're like stumbling trying to find that moderate approach, and you just keep gaining it back. And so you run in circles between, like you just gain the weight fast and you try and drop it fast, and you're just back and forth. You're oscillating between extreme calorie deficits, which are brutal, and then periods of just eating way too much, which you feel disgusting about yourself. So there's nothing good there.
Yeah.
Now, I guess we kind of flesh out the difference between a aggressive diet and a crash diet. I mean, I also want to point out the fact that most crash diets try and get you to A, cut out fat, B, cut out carbs, or C, cut out fats and carbs. And fats and carbs are really important to like hormonal functioning, testosterone in men, other hormones for women. It's very important for your sex drive, obviously, for feeling satisfied, and carbs are important for leptin, making you feel, I guess, happy in a way, helping you sleep at night, helping you relax. So I mean, any diet that gets you to really cut out carbs or fats is going to be miserable for most people, and it's going to have negative effects. So a lot of times you could be eating a very low carb or very low fat diet, and you'll feel like no sex drive. But then you could eat the same calorie intake and eat more fats or carbs, and it will come back. So that's something really interesting to note.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it's I would actually recommend trying different diets like that, because I know some people that respond really well to different macro intakes. So that respond really well to low carb, to low fat, to high protein, to low protein. I wouldn't really recommend low protein at all. But what it comes down to, though, is that I know what I respond best to, because I've actually tried out the different diets, and I've spent like a week eating low carb and a week eating low fat, and if you do that, instead of just like reading all this literature out there, listening to podcasts, watching videos, and instead of just like educating yourself, what I would really recommend people do is actually spend like a week doing these things. Obviously, if it's like the last week before like you're going on a vacation or something, that's one thing. You should be in prep mode for that. But but like now I think is the time, like around this time of year, to actually like experiment with different diets and like just spend a week going like low carb, and then spend the next week going low fat, and see what your body really responds to, and how how creating or how the intake of certain macros influences your mood, and like mental clarity and everything else, just so like what you personally respond best to.
Yeah, that's an important point. Basically, like 80% of the population generally will be in that balanced intake. Getting at least like, getting just a balanced macro of fats and carbs, like 25 to 30% fat, maybe 30 to 45% carbs, and then the rest making up protein. But then 10% of people will like low fat diets. I know the Hodge twins on YouTube, they like to go really low in fat, and I know that if I did that, I would like be starving nonstop. I would they have to eat like 10% fat, which is actually, I mean, it seems to work for them, but who knows?
It may actually be worth getting them on this podcast and just talking about it, because I can't go low fat. Like if I go below 20%, 20 to 25%, which is usually what I try to keep it around, like 25 to 30, I'll be miserable. Like I'll feel hungry and unsatisfied after every single meal. So it's just something that I realize with myself.
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly. And then like some guys that they actually like going higher in fat, like maybe up to 40%. So I mean, there is that spectrum, but most people are more in that middle range. And I guess the other thing to add there is that some people are like, oh no, I don't really handle carbs very well. But then when they eat like enough protein, and then they focus on eating like satiating carbs like potatoes, sweet potatoes, maybe a few pieces of fruit each day, lots of veggies, they're very full. It's only when they have like the bowl of cereal or that bowl of pasta, or maybe some rice, and they eat that and like hungry 30 minutes later, an hour later. It's like, yeah, that would happen to all of us, okay? But if you eat like a big meal of protein and potatoes, I mean, you're going to be full. You're going to be really full. So that's one of the issues, that people think like, oh, I only respond to low carbs, but they don't really try a really well laid out strategy.
Yeah, potatoes, I'll be honest with you, man. Potatoes are a game changer. Because if you have, I mean, I will not feel full if I don't have a potato in a meal. Yeah, maybe it's just like conditioned, after eating like in the Kinobody philosophy for the last year and a half now. But I really rely on the potato for lunch and the potatoes for dinner, whether it's sweet potato fries, or just like a russet potato that we usually cut into wedges. It's just like without the potato, like I will feel hungry. I mean, even rice, like rice doesn't cut it. We try to rotate in different things, and sometimes we'll have like corn tortillas or other, just different foods. But I'm like totally all about potatoes. And if people are, if there's ever a period where you're still hungry after a meal, usually you throw a potato in there and you'll be full, or you'll be at least satisfied.
Right. Perfect. Yeah, no, exactly. So let's kind of give them some context, because let's say, Tom, that you're having 17 to 1800 calories a day on a cut.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you were to do like a typical approach, eat 4 meals a day, you know, you're looking at about 400 and 450 calorie meals. That's very small. That's really
horrible.
And that's 4 meals a day. Some people eat 6 to 8 times a day. So, I mean, those are really small meals. Like, if you went to Chipotle, you will get like half a scoop of rice, you know, some beans, like 1 serving of meat, no cheese, no guac, just like that's all you get, essentially. Which you'd eat that, and God forbid, like, I mean, come on, like, you'd eat that and you'd be like, oh my, this is it? And so that dieting is like literally a nightmare. It's horrible. Yeah. It's like there's no salvation there. So what I would do is on my warrior shredding program, it's more of a moderate approach to like get consistent fat loss, consistent strength gain, and just slowly build really good muscle tone. But that's revolved around like 2 big meals and 1 smaller meal in like a feasting period. But if you're gonna go lower in calories, you'd actually, even on 3 meals, like, you'd be eating less. So what I actually found best is to literally do this. So the whole idea, like the fasting, I've talked about this a ton on the podcast. It's effective. Fasting does not slow down your metabolism. It does not sacrifice muscle protein. If you fast from about 14 to 18 hours, you get like some really heightened growth hormone. You maximize fat loss. There's actually a metabolism boosting effect because your body produces more norepinephrine. So, I mean, fasting actually is a very valuable tool. When you get used to it, it becomes hunger blunting, especially when you drink coffee. So I would actually fast, you know, well into the day until a point where you're pretty comfortable with it. And then what happens is, as your body gets hungry, it's because sometimes it's because your liver glycogen levels become depleted. And if you just have like 1 apple, 1 banana, just a little bit of fruit, you can actually replenish those liver glycogen levels, and then you'll be full, or at least like not hungry for another couple hours. So like, Tom, let's say you wake up at like 8 in the morning, maybe you could fast with just a couple of cups of coffee comfortably until 12 or 1. I mean, if you have a piece of fruit around 12 or 1, you could probably push that first meal to 3. Now you could eat like a really big giant meal of protein and veggies and potatoes, and that meal could literally be 1,200 calories. I kid you not. And that could be at like 3 o'clock. Then maybe like, let's say maybe a few hours later, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe like 7 o'clock, you get a bit hungry. You can have another apple, and that apple could basically help you push that last little meal until about like 9 o'clock at night. Yeah. And at 9 o'clock, you could have a smaller meal because you've already had 1,200 calories plus the 2 pieces of fruits, which is basically about 13, 14, about 13 and 1,350 calories. So I mean, you could have like a smaller meal of like basically an omelet, you know, with some bit of cheese, some egg whites, whole eggs. You could have some cottage, like a big container of cottage cheese or Greek yogurt. I mean, you could have some cheese quesadillas, which is like my favorite, where you get some corn tortillas, you fry them on a pan, you throw some cheese in there. You could basically have about 400 calories, so to speak. You could even you could go 500 calories.
Which you actually just made a YouTube video on that too.
Yeah, I did a YouTube video on the cheat. If you guys go to youtube.com/dog9, you can check it out. But this is the only way I found aggressive dieting to be really, really enjoyable. You fast. Later to the day, you have like a piece of fruit to make it longer. So you have that first meal later into the day, which just makes everything easier. Because then it's like, there's not much left in the day. And you just eat that giant meal. But after that giant meal, you're so satisfied. Like, you don't have to think about food. And then at night, like, you've already like hit a lot of those macros. You're not going to be that hungry. So just like something really small and easy. And the funny thing is, this is so helpful for people that have busy lives. Because basically they're eating like 1 main meal a day and then something really small and convenient. And so that's the way I set up. And actually, a little trick that I'm going to tell you guys now is what I'll do is to make this even easier. Okay, so let's say Tom, you're having your first main meal at 3 o'clock. Let's say you wake up at 8. You had like that apple around 12 or like say 1. You have like that first big meal like 2 or 3. Well, I would say just fill up on veggies and meat for that meal. So you've had that at 3, and then you know what? A couple hours later, then you like hit these potatoes. That's what I'll do. That's like a little happy hour trick where basically instead of going to a restaurant and getting a full entree, you've already hit your protein and veggies. So you go to the restaurant and maybe you get some sweet potato fries or some French fries and a drink. I mean, that's what I was doing this summer to kind of stay lean and like eat out a lot. Is like I'd hit my protein and veggies at my big first main meal, and then I'd go out with some friends, maybe like get like an appetizer and drinks, and then at night have like some cottage cheese, or some cheese quesadillas, or an omelet, or my favorite is like actually some frozen yogurt ice cream. Which brings us to the next point. But like seriously, this might sound crazy, but the whole concept is you're eating one big meal per day, one moderate meal, and then to make eating just 2 meals a day easier, you throw in 2 bridge snacks and fruits. And actually, this is the approach I laid out in my aggressive fat loss program. I completely have relaunched it, and I made it way more kick-ass. I've added a ton of like behavioral change exercises to like kind of program your body to like make dieting easier, because if your self-image of yourself doesn't support the idea of you getting very, very lean, you will get hungry on a diet. You will sabotage yourself. That's what helped me break through, because for a long time I was like 12% body fat. Finally, when I started doing these exercises, it helped me get down to like 7% in the summer. Very, very effective. Anyways, so I mean, I've relaunched the course. I added workout stuff, a cardio element to it, to maximize fat loss without increasing hunger. And yeah, so I'm actually launching that next week. And if you guys want to get on the waiting list, it's kinobody.com/AFL2, aggressive fat loss 2. It's AFL, just the acronym. Kinobody.com/AFL2. And so yeah, that's like the strategy I laid out kind of gives you the concept behind it. But it's really, really easy to do, extraordinarily easy. And so actually, you can have like the meat and the potatoes and veggies all together. But what I found is that if I like wait a little bit, then have like my potato wedges or whatever, it makes it way easier. Not everyone can do that, because it's really up to them. But yeah, that's the kind of the strategy. The last thing I want to talk about, or one of the last things I want to talk about, is how much protein should you eat on an aggressive diet. And I've kind of changed my philosophy. Before, I recommended eating a lot of protein to help keep you full. But the thing is,
so what percentage? Wasn't it up to like 40 or 45%?
40%.
Okay.
About 40% was what I originally recommended, which is a little over a gram per pound of body weight if you're eating at a good deficit, to help keep you full. And that works really well in the Warrior Shredding program, because you're eating 2 like big meals and then a smaller meal of like some Greek yogurt or cottage cheese or like a protein shake, whatever. So because you're getting in protein 3 times a day, that can work. Although some people still like to go lower. But on this aggressive fat loss strategy, you're eating 1 main meal per day and then a smaller meal. So as far as staying full on a diet, you don't need to eat that much protein. You don't need to eat a ton of protein. So you can actually go a little bit lower. I was experimenting with different ranges of protein, and I found that my sex drive and my testosterone levels were higher when I was eating less protein with more fats and carbs. That helped me so much. Even though I was at the same calorie intake, I felt like more sex drive, all that, and better mood was because I was having more fats and carbs. So as far as the research on how much the maximum amount of protein you need, it's around 0.82 grams per pound of body weight. So if you can imagine, let's say you're 200 pounds, that's about 164 pounds of protein, grams of protein per day. But the thing is like, let's say you're someone that has like 30% body fat, okay? Let's say you're 220 at 30% body fat. You probably don't even need 0.82 grams per pound, because your protein requirements are based on your lean body mass, not really your fat. Your fat, having a lot of fat does not influence how much protein you need. So if you have, let's say you have one person that's 230 pounds at 30% body fat, and let's say you have another guy that's like 190 pounds and has the same lean body mass. They will have generally the same protein requirements. So like that's what you got to think about there. So some people that literally have a lot of fat to lose, eating very high protein is unnecessary as far as maintaining muscle perspective. So generally speaking, I recommend consuming, like on an aggressive cut, like about 35% protein. And because you're taking in less calories, it's actually around like just under a gram per pound of protein. So it's it's in that safe ballpark, but it's definitely like you're getting enough, like more than enough protein than you need. And some people might want to go lower. So interestingly enough, like I'll sometimes stay between 120 grams of protein to 160. And I've been able to if you're training properly, if you're cutting properly, you can maintain strength, build strength on an aggressive diet just fine. I mean, that's been my experience. So that's just something to really think about. I was just
I was just gonna say there was so like right now I'm staying like I'm hovering right around like 1900 calories because I'm trying to cut a little bit heavier right now, and even eating except like I weigh 184, so I mean it's definitely like even below like a normal calorie deficit, so it's not really into the aggressive range, but it's really really close to it. And just through tracking my workouts and everything, I'm usually able to either get up a rep or go up in weight for all of my key lifts every single week. So, and that's eating at like a really steep deficit. So, yeah, and a lot of people think that if you can't gain strength or you can't build muscle unless you're eating in a surplus, and it's not true. So.
Right, and here's the cool thing. Let's say, Tom, you're doing an aggressive diet, and let's say the first month, you lost 8 pounds. It could be 10 pounds because that first couple weeks you'll lose a lot of weight. Well, let's say you lost 10 pounds that month and your lift stayed the same. You're doing the same weight on your chin-ups. You're doing the same weight on your incline bench presses and all that. Well, you've actually gained a lot of relative strength because now that you weigh less, your relative strength has gone up. So your strength proportionate to your body weight has gone up a lot. And relative strength is really the key to building a great physique because the higher your relative strength it just indicates that you have a good level of muscle mass to body fat, a good ratio of muscle to fat. Because you're not going to find someone that has a lot of fat and amazing relative strength because that fat is holding them down. So I mean, on an aggressive diet, if you're able to even build your strength, I mean, your relative strength is going through the roof. It's phenomenal. So I mean, I was at a point where I was like really stuck gaining strength to my lifts, and I was like 185, even 190. Then when I got down to like the 170s. My strength was the same, but my relative strength went up considerably because I weighed a lot less, and I could do one-arm chin-ups again, like no problem, all that stuff. But I guess the last thing I want to talk about is a bit about training. Still on the same thing with I always recommend training 3 days a week. That's the best way to maximize neural recovery and strength gain and build the best long-term muscle gains. Well, same thing for an aggressive diet. Train 3 days a week. If you want to keep fat loss moving at a fast clip, you're going to want to do some cardio on your rest days. And I generally recommend burning about double your body weight per pound in calories. So Tom, if you weigh 180, I'd say just burn 360. At that calorie burn, you're not going to increase your appetite much. It's just going to make dieting easier. It's just going to help you in a nicer deficit. Because it'd be more enjoyable to do a 30, 40-minute walk than have to go from 1,800 calories down to 1,500 calories. 50. So I mean, I do recommend doing some light cardio on the rest days. Nothing intense. You don't want to do too much intense stuff on a diet; it will burn you out. And then as far as strength training, you can actually, with my clients, what I've seen is that I'm able, even on a good diet, I'm able to get them to gain muscle in a couple areas. So on an aggressive diet, I'd recommend maintaining muscle everywhere, but doing a bit of a specialty on 2 groups, like hitting a bit more volume on your upper chest and your shoulders. That way you might see a little increase in muscle size on your chest and shoulders, and as your waist comes down, your definition comes in, you'll look fantastic. So I recommend keeping the volume quite low, but on 2 muscle groups, keep the volume a bit higher. You will see results there, which is very, very cool. And yeah, as you drop from an aggressive diet, everything starts to look better. I guess.
Well, especially if you have the workout dialed in and you're pushing for strength. Because really all you're going to do is you're going to solidify the muscle that's underneath, and you're going to reduce the fat that's obscuring it. And I mean the whole concept of tone and definition just comes down to having a lower body fat with either bigger or more dense muscles. And so I mean this is really what one of the fastest ways to get that kind of look. Yeah.
Perfect. No, exactly. And so I guess the last couple things to address is who's going to do best on an aggressive diet? People with more fat to lose are going to want to do an aggressive diet. If you got 50 pounds of fat to lose, I mean, a lot of times doing an aggressive diet can increase your dietary adherence. I mean, a lot of times people are not that happy with how they look, and so when they see those really fast results, it makes them feel good about themselves, it makes them feel excited, it makes them believe they can really achieve that goal. So for people with more fat to lose, aggressive diets are fantastic. People that are like just finished, like let's say, let's say you're close to your goal, but like the progress is coming so slow, and you really want to hit like a low body fat. Well, doing an aggressive diet for like a month can be very, very effective. It just kind of solidifies that fat loss. If you're in a small deficit, sometimes like if you screw up a little bit here and there, it can just destroy the progress. And so, especially when you're close to that goal, it can be so finicky. So when you do an aggressive cut for like a month, with some refeed days every week, I mean, you just see that visual change, and because it's just a month, your body can handle it, which is cool. And yeah, the fasting component is very cool. Like with an aggressive diet, like with the fasting and eating a lot of carbs at night, that actually helps limit the drop off of leptin. Leptin is a hormone that regulates your metabolism, your appetite, and so when you do a lot of carbs at night on a diet, you'll actually find that you don't feel that down regulation in your metabolism or in your energy levels, and you don't feel that increase in your appetite. So, I mean, the whole approach I laid out in this podcast is so effective. I was actually, because I'm relaunching my aggressive fat loss course, I was like going through my emails and like going through the tag aggressive fat loss, and I just uncovered like email after email of people with like sending me like testimonials, which I'll obviously going to put up on the new sales letter. But funny enough, like pretty much everyone that was doing it was losing 8 pounds that first month and enjoying it. I think that was the magic number, sweet spot. Like I had like 3 testimonials and like, yeah, because what I do is when someone buys my course, I'll send them an email at the 30-day mark and ask them how progress is going. And then like everyone was like, yeah, I lost like, it was like 4 kilos, which I guess is 8.8 pounds. So yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
So I mean, it's really, really effective, yeah. I mean, the only thing is, for people that really hate fasting and want to eat every 2-3 hours, then this isn't going to be for you. But people are comfortable like skipping breakfast, fasting and loving big meals. This is like really the only way to make it work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's crazy how consistent it is, and I think there's a lot to be said about following a program and seeing results with it. And a lot of people, the motivation drops off because they don't see results and because they don't think it's working. And that's one of the best things that I see with the aggressive fat loss program. Like, so this concept in general, but also like your program, because obviously like I man this, the help desk and everything with you as well. So I see a lot of these emails that come in as well, and it's crazy when they actually see results in such a short period of time, what that does to their motivation and to their adherence, because they see the results, even though it's only been a week, they see it on the scale, they see it physically, then after 2 or 3 weeks it just compounds, and you have like these incredible case studies, which we're actually going to be putting a lot of before and after transformations from like short periods of time, like 4 to 8 weeks, which is really short period of time in the grand scheme.
Yeah, my cousin lost my cousin did it for I think 4 months, and he lost 50 pounds of fat.
Dude, it's ridiculous. And so what's the best part about those is like hearing what they have to say about it and how motivated they were to keep going after they see the results, increasingly more transparent every single week. So it's really cool. It's an awesome strategy, and it's probably, from what I've seen and what I've tried, and I've tried some pretty stupid shit, it's the easiest way to lose fat without wanting to beat your head into a wall. That
is the new tagline on the aggressive fat loss program. Aggressive fat loss, the easiest way to lose fat without beating your head into the wall. That is like, that's actually good, because that's actually, I like that.
Accurate. Yeah.
It's quite accurate. Yeah.
Which is also why I said it, obviously.
Hey, we did it. I didn't even tell anyone that we're doing this call, and we got 20 viewers listening live. So just to like reiterate, I'm going to be relaunching this aggressive fat loss course. It's so effective. Like, I uncovered this protocol because I've been fasting every day for about 4+ years, and so finally I was like trying all these protocols, and like this was the only way I could do it and make it so enjoyable. I don't really have to think that much. There's like very little planning. But I'm so satisfied because on an aggressive fat loss, what I found was that if I didn't keep that first meal really big, if I kept it smaller, then I would still be yearning for food after. I'd be still so hungry, and so like I would try to do the 2-meal approach, and what would happen is I would like have like more of still a big but more of a moderate meal, and then I'd be like starving after. I couldn't stick to it. Whereas, and then when I did like, the bigger meal, I was like so satisfied. And then, of course, I tried to push that meal later by adding some fruit in there, which just made things so much easier. Because if you eat like that first really big meal, like 12 o'clock, and then you're going to bed at 10, you have like one small meal, it's like, wow, like that's a long time. You know, so yeah, that's like basically the yeah. So I mean, that's the kind of the strategy. So yeah, if you go to kinobody.com/AFL2, you can get on the waiting list. This is gonna be very, very effective. This is like my latest kind of program that I'm putting together, and it's for men. And
actually, so that brings up a good question. Can women do it, or would you not recommend it?
Yeah, actually, women can do it, but I kind of touch base upon that in the Goddess Toning program. So I would rather women go there and do the Goddess Toning program. The workout routine that I included in the course for aggressive fat loss is more tailored towards men, but I could do a woman's version of that. Yeah, yeah, but we'll have to see. I guess, is there anything else we need to talk about before we jump off this podcast, Tom?
Man, I think we fleshed it out pretty good. And so if you guys do want to get on the waiting list for Aggressive Fat Loss 2.0, it's completely revamped. Like, it shouldn't even be 2.0 because it's like completely different, totally new, like bonuses and resources in it. There's going to be videos. It's going to be pretty awesome. But it's kinobody.com/AFL2. AFL2. Number 2.
Number 2. Yeah.
And
dude, I'll probably do I'll because I'm at that point where, like, you know, I might want to like lean up a bit more. I'll do my own case study for it. I'll start it off today.
Do it. So, and actually, matter of fact, you're going to be talking to one of the clients of yours that followed the aggressive fat loss program and saw some pretty awesome results. Is that true? Is that still going on?
Yeah, we're gonna do a podcast in a few days. He had really good results. I posted them on my Facebook page. He lost a lot of fat. He leaned up quickly. His name is Malcolm, and then so I touched base with him. I emailed him just recently, and he was like, yeah, he was like, hey man, yeah, like the aggressive fat loss like went really well, like, but then I switched to like Greek God, and I've been putting on muscle, but it's like I haven't been as like worried about like my body fat and stuff, so I put on some fat and everything. And so he sent me his pictures. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're still like freaking near shredded, and you have incredible, like, crazy strength and muscle. And so yeah, I'm gonna get him on. We'll talk about basically his experiences with aggressive fat loss. You know, what advice he'd give to people following it. What was like, you know, any tips that he'd have for me if I was gonna make it better. Because I'm always open to learning and stuff like that. And then we'll get into like his experiences from shifting from aggressive fat loss to Greek God. He was under the impression they put on some fat, but he is still at least like under 10% body fat, and so yeah, it's cool to kind of look into that journey. So, anyways, awesome. Yeah, I guess we're done here. Thank you so much for listening. Yeah, stay tuned.
Cool, guys. Take it easy.
Bye bye.